After 5 years of working for him, I couldn't say no. My husband's revenge was brutal. Hello, Reddits. I didn't know I was ruining my life doing what I was doing. I honestly thought that if I could keep it a secret forever, nothing could go wrong. I mean, I kept it for a whole 2 years and nothing happened. I just thought everything was working perfectly until it suddenly wasn't. That day, 3 weeks ago, was the worst day of my life. Even remembering makes me tear up, and all I want to do is beat myself up for making such brutal mistakes. I really never thought about the consequences. Well, I did, but I didn't expect this magnitude. My husband found out about my affair with my boss, whom I've been working with for 5 years and sleeping with right from the start, and his revenge was just so brutal. Please hear me out before you judge me. I never thought that it would have to come to any of this, but I was just so wrong. I've been married to Alex for 2 years now. I never believed in love at first sight until I met Alex, and it was just so awesome being with him. We met at a restaurant where I frequented during lunch break, but that day I had forgotten my purse back at the office because of how hungry I was. I didn't check to see if I packed everything, I only picked my bag and left. It was only after eating and was supposed to pay that I remembered I left my purse in the office. My office was just a few minutes' walk from the restaurant, and I was debating with the worker to let me go and allow me to come back to pay, but he was not willing to compromise and kept insisting that I pay. He was definitely new there and didn't know me, and unluckily for me, his boss wasn't around. I was still debating with him when Alex walked up to the waiter and told him he'll pay for both of us. I felt embarrassed and relieved, and I followed him out to collect his number so I could text him to send his account number, and I'll just pay it back. He was looking devastatingly handsome that day. It was my first thought of him when he first walked up to the waiter and offered to pay for us both. I felt like I was some damsel in distress being saved by her knight. When I texted Alex that evening and thanked him again while asking for his account details, he said not to bother, and from then on we became very good friends, and then within a month, lovers. Alex was everything I had ever dreamt of in a man. He was loving, kind, patient, and stern when he needed to be. He made me feel complete, and he treated me like a person, and he always respected my opinion on things. He also never took any decisions without informing me first. We were that perfect couple together that everyone envied, our friends, strangers, and even our own families. We had this mutual understanding, and we never kept anything away from each other. Well, except that one secret that kept me telling a lie, and then leading to more lies until they just became a daily part of me. I have been working for Edwin for 5 years now, as I said before, and that was 3 years before I met Alex at all. Edwin is much older than me, and he is also married with 3 kids. The eldest was only about 3 years younger than me, and the heir of his father's company, which I worked for, but he was still in school, and also still busy frolicking around with everything in a skirt. He would have made his advances towards me if his father hadn't given him a stern warning, threatening to cut him off if he tried anything with his staff. But he and I both knew the real truth was because he was already sleeping with me and definitely didn't want to share me or have to compete with his son. Everything started after I graduated from college, as at the time I graduated, Edwin's company was the most sought-after company to work in, to gather the experiences you need, and I was desperate to get in. I wanted to do everything possible to get in, and I was ready to bribe my way in. Not exactly through sex, but I had enough savings to pay up any executive that was ready to help me pass my interview at the company. But I met Edwin by accident. I didn't know he was the owner of the company, and I thought he was the executive I was planning to meet that day before the interview, and I told him my plans. I begged him that I needed the job desperately and was willing to do anything, including paying him whatever amount he requested. I told him I didn't have enough saved yet, but after I started working, I was definitely going to give him the remaining balance out of my salary. Edwin said nothing, just watched me beg him desperately, and then he gave me his card to call him. I was happy that I was at least one step forward. I called him that evening, and he picked up one ring, and then he told me that he wanted to have dinner with me if I didn't mind. I of course agreed to it and went to the address of the place he had sent me to meet him. It was a 5-star restaurant, and it was my first time there. Edwin said nothing at first other than watched me order for what I wanted, and he said nothing except sip his wine until my food arrived. He then told me exactly who he was. I was shocked and kept begging him not to disqualify me, but he reassured me that he wasn't going to if I had sex with him. I wanted to refuse the offer, but I knew I had no choice, so I accepted. Edwin wasted no time in booking a reservation at some hotel and told me to spend that night with him. Having no choice because of my decision, I followed him there, and then we had sex countless times overnight. For a man who wasn't so young, I didn't expect him to be so full of energy for sexual pleasure. He kept reaching for me through the night and prodding me with his male organ. I felt disgusted and ashamed because of what I did, and I promised myself that it wouldn't happen again. I knew that when I got the job, I didn't have to work so closely with the boss because I was applying to be in the marketing department, so we would have had 1 or 2 reasons to meet. I got the job as expected. I didn't even do much during the interview. They didn't ask me as many questions as they asked the others. They only asked for my name and my qualifications, and no other questions before asking me to leave, and then I got the text of being employed that same evening. I was so happy to start a new job, and since I didn't use the money I saved up for bribing anybody, I used it to get an apartment just 3 hours away from work. I felt excited to start work that Monday, but I resumed to the marketing department only to be reassigned to the boss's office as the new secretary. I was shocked because I thought I never really had to see Edwin again, but there I was right at his beck and call, and he really did take advantage of that. He would call me into his office, lock the doors from the inside, and ask me to strip. I never said no. I never even complained once. My salary as his secretary was very high, and he also gave me extra money anytime we had sex. I got a lot of money to even move into a bigger and better apartment. The benefits of sleeping with Edwin were numerous. I didn't even do as much work as I thought I would. I just had to please the boss. And I did that very well. Faking an orgasm just to please him became my usual thing to do the most. I just had to moan out loud and pee a little to make it believable, and Edwin really did think he was doing a fantastic job at sex. I met his wife a couple of times over the years because of how often Edwin took me everywhere with him. I went with him to family occasions and also work occasions. I was his stress reliever. Whenever he was angry and frustrated, especially with his kids or his wife, I bore the brunt in bed. I didn't mind it at first. It worked out well because I was striving financially, and my friends envied me greatly. It made everything I had to do with Edwin worth it. But after I met Alex, I was starting to rethink my choices of sleeping with Edwin, especially after the first time Alex and I had sex. I didn't have to fake anything because I really did have an orgasm. He was super gentle and rough at the same time. He knew just how to handle me and give me so much pleasure. I could understand perfectly the differences between sleeping with someone because you had no choice and sleeping with someone because you're in love with them. I tried hard to reduce the way I had to work closely with Edwin to avoid the almost everyday sex, but Edwin would have no such thing. I couldn't exactly say no to him either because my job was on the line. After Alex proposed and I agreed to marry him, I told Edwin that I was getting married. He was not pleased with it. It made him angry that I was seeing someone on the side while sleeping with him. I begged him to understand. I couldn't exactly spend the rest of my life being his work mistress. Edwin was so bittered by the fact that I was getting married, and even though I invited him for the wedding, he didn't show up. But his wife did make excuses for her husband about him having some work thing, but I knew the real reason, but I didn't really care. I was nervous about him showing up anyway, so it worked out well. I went on my honeymoon even though Edwin refused to sign my leave of absence from work. I didn't want Alex suspecting the reason why he didn't bother showing up for the wedding, and also still refusing to allow me on my honeymoon. Edwin was really pissed when I resumed 2 weeks later at work. He refused to speak to me and only dealt with me from a distance. Even though the whole working environment was tense, I was happy because I thought that maybe Edwin was finally leaving me alone. He didn't try to touch me or even talk to me directly for 2 whole months, and I was great. Being married to Alex was the best thing. He just made my whole day better whenever I came home from work, and I loved how he would cook my favorite meals or chat me up at work to ask me what I would like for dinner. Alex worked from home most of the time. He was always in demand because of how good he is at his job, and most companies wanted him to work with them permanently instead of contracting him for a job, but Alex refused to. He was building up his own company, and it was really hitting off already right from the start. I was so proud of him because of how excellently he was doing, although I couldn't say the same about me. Edwin was starting to make work really difficult for me. He was always finding faults in everything I did, and I was so tired of re-editing, deleting, starting over again every time because he had some issues with the work I did for him. He made it so tiring to work for him, and I was desperate to keep my job. I didn't want to lose all the money I got from walking with him, but I didn't want to sleep with him again. I knew everything he was doing was only to make me come to him and offer him sex, and not him offering again. But I didn't want to, and I held on. Believe me, I really tried to hold on and not let him get at me, but it was really hard. I couldn't exactly get another high-paying job as I did with Edwin's company out there. And I knew quitting my job was not good on my resume because I would probably get no letter of recommendation if I quit, and especially if Edwin had anything to do about it. I tried to transfer to the marketing department because that was where I originally wanted to be, but it wasn't possible without Edwin signing it off, so either way, I was doomed. I eventually had to give him what he wanted. I offered him sex when it all got too frustrating. I went to his office that morning wearing the new lingerie I purchased underneath my smart shirt and skirt, and when I went in without knocking and closed the door behind me, Edwin was irritated by my act, but he said nothing because he was on a business call. He watched me as I walked towards his table and started to remove my clothes to reveal the lingerie that made no attempt to cover up anything except a tiny part which was my nipple. Edwin, clearly interested in what I was doing, quickly ended the call, and like the greedy old man that he was, he loosened his belt and quickly removed his trousers to expose his erection. We had sex as we have always done in the office, and from that day again, we resumed our mutual relationship of sex and a good working space. Alex was not aware of the continuation of my affair with my boss. He only realized that I was happy again after months of wearing dark moods from the office, and when he commented on it, I just brushed it off, not wanting to discuss anything about my boss in my only happy space. Alex kept wanting for a child, although he never pressured me for one, but he had told me before we got married that he wanted us to have a child. The first 6 months of marriage, I did really want a child, so I didn't use any birth control pill or anything else. We had even gone to a fertility clinic to check if we were healthy enough to start having kids, and we both were confirmed healthy. But as soon as I started sleeping with Edwin again, I started using the pills so I didn't get pregnant. Not because I didn't want Alex's baby, but I was scared to have Edwin's instead. He was already married with children. Having a child for him would definitely ruin my life, my marriage, and even the child's life. So every month when I got my menstrual period, I felt guilty because I know how much Alex was wishing for a baby. Sleeping with Edwin became less regular, thankfully, after a while. He was traveling a lot with his wife, and he couldn't exactly bring me along with him. She apparently wanted them touring the world, and she wouldn't take no for an answer. She was also insisting that her son should take temporary reign over the company to get the hang of things. It meant even though I was relieved to not be dealing with Edwin as often, I was dealing with his son, who lusted after me even though I was married. It was a like father, like son thing. I couldn't quit because Edwin wouldn't let me. He wanted access to me any time, and I couldn't say no to him. Edwin, after traveling for months with his wife, finally decided he was done with it and needed me. He paid for my ticket to come spend 3 days with him at a hotel room he was paying for, and I had no choice but to leave. I didn't have to take any notice from work because his son was absent most of the time, and I was the one handling everything around the office. I told Alex I had to go on a business trip and that I was spending 3 days there, and he didn't argue or say anything about it. It wasn't the first time I had to travel like that for work, although it wasn't exactly work I was traveling for, but to Alex, it definitely was. So I flew over to where Edwin was. He was staying in the same luxurious hotel with his wife, but in a different suite. He rented out a room for me, and I had to hide all the time for those 3 days in that room. It was boring as hell, and the only times I loved there were when Alex called to ask about work. Edwin would sneak into my room when he can, and then we would do our usual before he has to leave again to meet his wife. She suspected nothing even when her husband left her side in the night and came into my room. He had the extra key to the room, so he didn't have to do any knocking when he came around. I went back home after the 3 days with Edwin while he was still there with his wife. He wanted me to stay longer, but I couldn't anymore. I hated being stuck inside that room all day for those 3 days for fear of running into his wife or anyone who knew her. I went home hoping that everything would go back to normal, the way it always was. I came home and Alex wasn't home. He texted me that he had a meeting and said would be back in the evening. So I dropped my bag, and when I reached for my phone, Edwin had texted me. He thanked me for the time spent with me at the hotel and told me he had sent money to compensate me for having to come to such a beautiful state and not be able to explore. He also wrote that he couldn't wait to see me and get to touch my beautiful body again. I just hissed and tossed the phone carelessly on the bed without bothering with a reply. I certainly wasn't looking forward to spending time with him again when he got back. It was getting difficult to pretend I was enjoying sex with him. I absolutely abhorred the sloppy way he kisses me. I went into the bathroom to take a shower, hoping it would wash away every sin I committed with him there at the hotel, and I felt better afterwards, and then I went to the room with my towel around my body to change into something casual and wait for Alex to get back. But to my greatest shock, Alex was right there in the room, and he wasn't just there. He was holding my phone and reading through something. I realized last minute that I hadn't bothered to lock the phone or remove it from Edwin's text before going to take a shower. I tried to reach for the phone, but Alex just moved it out of my reach. He looked at me with a blank expression on his face. There was no telling how he felt when he still kept quiet while staring at me. I didn't know what to do, so I just knelt beside his legs and kept begging him to listen to me. I told him I could explain, even though Alex said nothing and just watched me coldly. I didn't know when I started saying things, but I was able to summarize everything that had ever happened between Edwin and I in the last 5 years into a 20-minute explanation. I finished by telling him that I regret my actions every time, and that Edwin made it difficult to say no to him, and that I had no choice. Alex said nothing even after I kept begging him and crying. He just kept looking at me kneeling at his feet before he then made to walk away, but I wouldn't let him. I grabbed his legs and tried to hold on, but Alex just pushed me out of the way and left the room with my phone still in his hand. I was so scared and didn't know what to do. I kept panicking and praying desperately that Alex forgives me, but none of that had happened. Alex left the house and didn't return until the next morning. I couldn't even sleep a wink throughout that night, and when he came home that morning, I tried to talk to him hoping that he would hear me out, even though I had nothing to say, but Alex had just pushed me out of the way and then went into the room. He didn't give me back my phone, but I met it on the bed when he left the house again. I looked through it to see if he had done anything unusual on it, like text or threaten Edwin, or perhaps sent anything to his wife, but nothing had happened. And instead of relief, it made me even more anxious. I didn't know what he would do next. His silence was deadlier than anything else. I didn't know what to expect. He wasn't angry or sad or bitter. He just was quiet about it. By the end of the day, though, I found out what Alex could do. Alex made a post and tagged me and my boss on it. It was a screenshot of the text that Edwin had sent me, and there were also other screenshots of our previous chats. When Edwin was desperate for something, anything at all other than his boring wife, as he would say when they were traveling 2 months ago, he had asked me for a phone sex, and I couldn't say no again, and I did as he asked and even sent him some nude pictures of me. Everything was right there on the post. And lastly, there was a recording of me confessing to our affair for the past 5 years. I was so shocked, and I couldn't believe that Alex had gathered all the evidence he needed to incriminate me on my phone and posted it. The comments, the number of reposts, and the way people kept coming for me in my DM was just terrible. Alex didn't stop there, though. To ensure that everyone saw it, he posted it again on another social media platform, and also on the family group chat, and also on our friends group chat. Everyone knew. Everyone now knows all the secrets I've kept hidden for so many years, and it's totally awful. No one was even supporting me. They all stayed away from me. My mom, who called at least twice a week, didn't call anymore, and even when I called her, her phone would only ring, but she never picks up. I cannot even bring myself to call my dad. My siblings all stay away from me just like everyone else. My friends, everyone else has no regard or respect for me anymore. I couldn't even bring myself to show my face at work, and that's probably even because I've been fired without ever receiving a notification of it. Edwin's wife is fighting Edwin hard in court, and the incriminating evidence of us on the internet is making him lose badly. My life has just become totally horrible in the last 3 weeks. After Alex had made that post, he came home with every intention of having me removed from our home. He packed my bags, and despite how I was crying and begging him to forgive me, Alex wouldn't listen. He just angrily flung my bags out of the house. He threw our wedding picture that had been framed as a gift for us to celebrate our wedding, and he also threw his ring at me before slamming the door in my face. There was no amount of begging I could do to get him to open the door. I tried hard, but he just left me there, standing outside with my bags in the cold. He didn't care anymore. Alex didn't care about me anymore. And it was more evidence of that painful fact when he sent me the divorce papers days later with his signature boldly written on it. I don't think I can live with myself if this really is the end. I don't want to lose Alex forever. I want to believe. I want to hold on desperately to the thought that Alex will forgive me someday. Might not be soon, might take years or forever, but I really want to hold on to that fallacy. I don't care that other people hate me. I do, but not as much as I care that Alex hates me too. I want to fix that. I don't want a divorce. I want us to work things out and maybe someday go back to the way we once were. Please, guys, what do you think I can do? Update. Hello, Reddits. My life is just total rubbish right now. Nothing seems to be working at all. I feel so choked up by the extent of my sins and the consequences backing it up. I know that I have lost the best thing that has even happened to me, and all because I was stupid and greedy. I don't know what I was thinking of continuing something as damning as an affair with an older married man with kids, while I had a home of my own that I was supposed to be protecting. How could I have thought that everything will work out for my good, when all I have ever done was ruin everything right from the start? I thought I could perfectly hide something as staining as an affair, but I had forgotten karma. I regret so many things, and the biggest regret is losing Alex, and the second would be ever allowing Edwin to destroy my marriage. My life is already completely over before it has even begun. A marriage that is not even 3 years old is officially now a divorce. I should have known. I wish I had known how grave the consequences would be and just quit that job and stayed at home with Alex, or perhaps get another job even if it wasn't as qualifying as that one. But it would have been a better sacrifice to pay rather than this disgrace I'm facing right now. It's just so terrible, feeling this way, knowing that I could never get it right again, knowing that I've lost Alex for good. I've been called all sorts of names both on the internet and right where I am right now. People avoid me like a plague, and I have become the most talked about person there. No one wants to give me a job because they're scared of being pulled into my sin. Everyone wants absolutely nothing to do with me, including my own family, who I haven't seen since that day, and they still wouldn't take my calls or respond to my texts either. My life is totally ruined, and it's all because I was foolish enough to believe that I could control everything. I could control my relationship with Alex and Edwin. I thought I could have both men together and still not get discovered. I thought having a job and extra cash at hand was the best feeling, mixed with having a husband who absolutely adores you, only to discover that you can never have both. You either lose one or both, and in my case, I've lost both and everything else in my life. I feel so ashamed of myself right now, and all I can do in this empty and cold apartment is cry and regret. I regret ever knowing Edwin or doing the things I did with him, and I regret ever lying to Alex throughout our whole relationship. I should have told him the truth. Hell, I should never have even been involved with Edwin or agreed to his proposition in the first place. I should have rejected the offer and just stick to getting the job honorably. Or even working somewhere else. I should have, and I keep going crazy over all of the options I should have explored in the beginning so I wouldn't have ended where I'm at this moment. One crazy thing is how I came here thinking that I'll get some help, thinking and praying desperately that even if not all but someone out there somewhere will understand that even though I messed up, I'm willing to accept the consequences and change. I came here hoping that even if it's just one advice I got, so I could get Alex back. I came here wishing that with my post, everyone or maybe someone will see the shiny and pain through my writing. But sadly, I got nothing but shame and cruel comments. I know I deserve all that is coming to me. I know that I'm a horrible person, and I know I don't deserve to find peace even though I desperately want to. But you guys literally made it even worse. My thoughts are so messed up right now, and I feel so depressed and lonely, and the feeling keeps growing rapidly each day. The other crazy thing would be, despite the fact that I feel so much, I feel so empty and down still. My head and heart feels empty and yet heavy, and it's almost unbearable, this pain that seemed lodged in the center of my heart. The emptiness hurts. It hurts so badly, and I don't know if that's even possible. But I'm starting to discover that nothing is apparently impossible at this stage of my life. Well, except the fact that Alex will ever forgive me. That I know for a fact will never be possible, not in a million years. Not ever. It's so horrible being stuck in my home like this with nothing to do but to think nothing to do, but to think about how much I've managed to mess up the only real thing I could ever have. I've never understood how loneliness worked until now. I initially thought it was not having people around you, or not being able to have friends to go out with or a job to get to. I thought that loneliness was simply a person who didn't know how to socialize or have fun. But I only realize now so late that it's about not having that one true person in your life that would go through thin and thick for you. I miss Alex so much it hurts. It hurts badly thinking about the horrible things I kept doing to him until I finally pushed him away. I made him hate me. I made him hate me so much he had posted those horrible things about me. It's such a terrible feeling. I wish I could get a chance to do things right, just one that I would have sworn never to mess up, having come firsthand with what it means to lose the one you love out of carelessness or greed in my case. I keep thinking back to that day, the day I walked out of the shower and saw Alex with my phone. I remember all sorts of things flashing through my head, and one of them had been Alex divorcing me, and truly, here I am with Alex having done the exact same thing, but not without letting the whole world know what a terrible person I am. Becoming a laughingstock and a disregarded person in this time and age has taken its heavy toll on me, and most days I feel like I can't even get up. I keep wishing that I would somehow sleep and wake up and all of this was some horrible nightmare, that I'm married to Alex and Edwin just isn't in the picture. I haven't heard anything from him, and not because he's hiding. His news is literally on social media every minute someone else sees another fact to discuss. He's apparently now in huge debts with no means to repay back because he lost the company and the house to his wife. He's lost things too, but I somehow wish he lost more and will continue losing. Because that's where I am right now. I've lost so much, and yet every day I continue losing more. Right now, I'm losing my sanity more each day, and it's just so terrible trying to stay sober because my thoughts are all jumbled up and so hurtful I wish there was a way to shut it down. There's a saying that it's difficult to miss what you don't have, but I keep missing the life I will never have with Alex. The good laughs and jokes I'll never be able to share with friends. The coziness of a warm home with a husband and possibly kids, one or two, and they both looking like their father. I miss that I will never get to celebrate another anniversary with Alex anymore. I will always be to him that woman who couldn't hold it. I will always be that woman that he hates so much and will always remember as a liar and a cheat. And it hurts so much knowing that I cannot knock that image of me out of his mind. I wish I could destroy it or take it all back. I wish I could just do something, but I can't. I never will be able to, and that alone is enough to make me regret for the rest of my life. My life will always be this empty, painful, and drained shadow of itself with no one to turn to and no one to look up to. No one to help me out of this torment if there's ever a way out. No one who's willing to come near me, perhaps because I am now just only a disgusting person to them all and nothing more. My emotions are supposed to be sealed away because they mean nothing to everyone. Even you guys. If I ever had the chance to go back into the past to change something, it would definitely be meeting him at all. I definitely would have survived in my career if I hadn't met him, and I would have survived if I didn't work in his company, because that had even been more hazardous than actually just not getting the job. I wish I had some way to undo this. I wish I could somehow just go back to being Alex's lover and wife, and faithfully so. I wish that I would get a second chance with Alex, but then... I know how impossible that is, but it still doesn't stop my every breath from wishing it was true. This is my last post here, guys. I hope you all don't end up like me, sad, miserable, and with no hope, none at all for the future. Thanks and goodbye.